Welcome to Advanced Nurses. We connect with nurses who inspire other nurses by sharing their experiences. And so we're able to bring that information to you. Hi, I'm the educational consultant with Advanced Nurses ACD4N, and I'm here with James and Czarina Adams. And these are two wonderful nurses who created a pathway, really tapping into financial literacy. And I'm just excited to hear about how they got into nursing, what they're doing currently, this non traditional path that they have chartered for themselves, and how we can all, everyone here, my audience here, can tap into some of their services here. So, first, we are going to start with either Zarina or James. Who wants to start?
Yeah, you want to start?
Okay, well, all right. Well, hello everybody. Thank you again for allowing us to share what it is that we do, share our story, and maybe be able to inspire, our nurses out there that are listening. But to give you guys an idea of, how we got into nursing. So regardless of what you think of my first name, I know a lot of people get very confused. Zarina, Czarina. It is a Russian name. I'm not Russian. I am Filipino. But just that being said, I come from a humble beginnings in as an immigrant coming from the Philippines. And so, as many people already know, yes, when you are a Filipino, a lot of times when you come here as an immigrant, we seek stability. And one of the ways to be able to do that as an immigrant, one of the ways you can have stability is working through healthcare. And so that is, one of the reasons why I came into nursing. A lot of my family is also in healthcare, and it just inspired me. Quite honestly, it's just really what I knew. And it just kind of fell on my lap, and I got inspired by my entire family, and I ended up becoming a NICU nurse about 10 years ago.
Yep. And for me, I know it may not look like it, but I am half Filipino. And Filipinos, it's always the pathway that you're encouraged to go into is something medical or engineering. And at least for me, growing up, I honestly I didn't quite know what I wanted to do, but just like Zarina said, we're taught to find something that's stable, and healthcare I figured was the most stable career or one of the most stable career paths out there. And wanted to be a doctor at first, but doctor, I don't think I was smart enough to become a doctor. I wasn't going to go through all that schooling. And I kind of fell into nursing as a fallback, and nursing's been a great career. But that's kind of how I got started. And how me and Zarina met, we actually met in nursing school. So we kind of we had that trauma bond of nursing school that that's how we decided that, okay, we can make this work, and ended up getting married, and here we are now, right? But when I started working as a nurse, I worked in med tele and step down. So that was a lot of my career as a nurse, was working med tele step down. I did some clinic work. And I also did school nursing as my last job before leaving nursing altogether.
Wow. So James is out. You
Yeah.
have been completely liberated. You said, I'm taking this ticket out of this thing. So
Hmm.
since you said that, what made you leave nursing? Like, what was that moment that you said, I'm ready to check out?
Well, I think it was, I don't know if there was a specific moment I would say that said, you know what, I need to find a way out. I think it was just a culmination of everything. When I started working as a nurse, nursing wasn't everything that I thought it was going to be coming out of nursing school. I wasn't prepared for all the physical stress or how physically demanding the job is, the emotional stress, mental stress, just all of it. It was really affecting my day-to-day life. And I just eventually came to a point where I was like, I need to find something else. I need to find something different. I didn't quite know what that was going to be. I knew I wanted to be able to help people, right? I mean, that's one thing that really excited me about nursing was going in and really being able to feel like you're making a difference for other people. So I knew whatever I did outside of nursing had to be around that. Like I said, I didn't quite know what that was going to be, but eventually stumbled into finance and financial literacy, financial education, because working as a nurse, one thing I did see working as a nurse, and if I'm going to say if there's any aha moment for me, it would be seeing nurses on the unit who were already 60, almost 70 years old, and they're still working bedside. And they've been doing, it's not like they were just starting as nurses, right? We're talking about people who have been a nurse for 30, 40 years. And for me, because also we're from Northern California, right? Which is where, it's no secret, this is where the you can make the most as a nurse, especially working bedside. And to me, it's always just ironic. Why is it that all these nurses, we make such good income out here, but why are they still working bedside? Right. And to me, it was just ironic to see that. And, at the time, I'm 20, what, 22, 23 years old. And for me, I'm literally looking at my future, right? I'm looking at my future of, man, this is what I'm going to be doing for another 40 years if I don't start to change things and start learning about money and getting smarter with my money. So that's what really intrigued me to start learning about finance. And, make a long story short, that's how we ended up getting started in the finance industry.
Wow, that is awesome. So I guess after James explained that, I would have to ask Zarina. So tell me, um, what does your pathway in nursing look like?
Yeah, so I've been working as a NICU nurse for the last 10 years. I had a little bit of a different experience than James. I came in there and I thought I thought that it was the best thing I could do in my life. It was, I'm always grateful because it's grown me and shaped me into the person that I am today. However, just like James said, it was being able to see our future. At that time, when James and I first worked as nurses, again, we were 23 years old, and at that time, we knew that nursing in Northern California was where the most lucrative it was going to be. So what did we do? We just kind of just took advantage of our youth, of our energy, and worked as much as we could because that's how we thought we could become more financially free, I guess, at that time, right? More financially independent per se. We thought that was the fastest way to get to our goals, which is to buy a house, have all this financial security. However, one thing I found out was that a lot of it was just kind of going into taxes. A lot of it I was going to be able to build with, but so much of it was just not being taken home. It was not the expectation, right? And so at that time, I was working two jobs. I was working about 6 nights a week, 12 hours and 8 hours at another job. And James was working his full-time job day shift. So you think about that, you're building this life together. You're building this, what you think your nest egg is going to be, but the expense was that we weren't quite seeing each other physically, emotionally, mentally. The alignment wasn't there. And so again, looking at our future, we said, okay, how sustainable could this be? There has to be more than to just work hard. There had to be more than just picking up all the overtime, getting all the whatever, all the shifts that we could. There had to be more than that because the wealthy was definitely not working as hard as we were. They knew something we didn't. So that's when it opened up for us where I said, okay, you know what? Um, we should learn. We should give it a chance to be able to learn, you know? And, luckily for us, I had a good friend that was in the industry that, was more than willing to be able to help us. And that's what opened us up into just understanding even our own finances and now being able to share that experience with others so that they don't have to go through that sort of that feeling that we had.
Wow, that is so encouraging. So I want to hear more about the National Financial Literacy Campaign because that's what actually struck my attention. I mean, you and James do such a great job, putting it out there that you're nurses who started to adopt these principles of financial literacy. And I mean, you guys look like you're really embracing it and running with it. And I think that, and you know how it is. A lot of times with nurses, we get that first paycheck and we're at the Louis Vuitton store. I mean, we're spending it out. We're
Yep.
getting our first, car. We want to pull up and let everybody know, yeah, I got this money. And many times you speak with nurses and you realize they're just spending all of it. They're
Hmm.
not investing it. It's just all of it is just going towards the lifestyle. And
Mhm.
Yep.
which I think draws a lot of people into nursing because they're like,
Yeah.
wow, nurses make some good money. But you
Mhm.
can also lose all that money if you're not wise about that. So
Correct.
please, can you tell me about the National Financial Literacy Campaign? I want to hear about it.
Yeah. You want to explain it?
Yeah. So basically, James and I are part of an organization, okay, called the National Financial Literacy Campaign. And this is actually what drew us also into this industry because I've worked at, me and James have worked at some of the biggest institutions here in California, biggest institutions in the United States as far as the hospital systems go. And one of the things we realized was we were always just looking for the next highest rate, right? And for some reason in our minds also, we thought that in those institutions, because they were so big, that there would be maybe departments that would also be teaching us how to retire, how to utilize a pension, how to be able to become financially educated. However, in the last 10 years of being a nurse and working in all these institutions, we have yet to work and find an institution that would do that for us. Okay. And that's what led us to this campaign because a friend of ours was in this campaign. And basically, we had started attending workshops. Okay. And so, this institution that we're in is basically an institution that has a campaign of what we call 30 by 30, of educating 30 million people by 2030. And you look at that, and I imagine what really sold us to this is imagining even just hitting 10% of that, having educated even 3 million people in the United States workforce, what would that even look like? Right? Even educating the 6 million nurses in the United States, what would that look like? To me, what that looks like is having to not see a nurse who doesn't need to be at the bedside anymore to not be there anymore. Because we see too many of that. The ones who maybe going to work with a boot. We've seen so many of those nurses, right? Going to work with carpal tunnel. All of these things because they have to, because maybe they were not financially educated, right? So that is the campaign that we're in. Okay, we got licensed in this industry about 6 years ago, and we just ran with just being financially educated ourselves and then educating other nurses as well.
So when we say we're our organization, that's the organization that we're a part of. World System Builder. There's about 50,000 licensed agents all across the U.S. and Canada. And like Zarina was sharing, right? We have the focus is about being able to provide and spread the financial education that we're typically not given, right? Because so many people there's such a shortage of financial education, right? And it's the reason why you see so many people they struggle or they live paycheck to paycheck. They never develop the habits and disciplines of saving or investing, not because they don't make money, but because they're not taught about financial literacy, right? So World System Builders is our organization that is going out and spreading that financial literacy, that financial education. Even on, the site, you can see all our workshops we have, right? The workshops we host 5 days a week, 3 times a day, just for people to come in and just learn, right?
Because one thing we realize is that, you talked about having the nicest cars, the fancy stuff, the Chanel, the Louis Vuitton, whatever. One thing we realized about nursing is that, of course, we do, a lot of times people do that because they feel like they deserve it, right? But it's not really the big purchases that cause people to become in financial ruin or distress. It's really mostly the habit. It's just like in healthcare, right? It's not the one big pizza that the guy ate to get them to where they ended up having a a stroke, right? It's because of all the habits throughout the years that had been happening. The small purchases, the small times, all those times that the person maybe never thought about paying themselves first, right? It's about being able to have the discipline and the habits all throughout the years. It's not the big purchases so much.
Yeah, the best way for people to connect with us is just like how you found us through Instagram at Nurses in Finance. We're very active on there. We talk to a lot of people on there through DMs or people can schedule calls with us through there. So that would be the best way to reach us or connect with us.
We want to hear from you. Schedule a free consultation or send us an email at advancednurses@acd4n.com or visit our websites www.advancednurses.info or www.acd4n.com.